Chapter 1, Antya-līlā, text around 40 something. Does it go? Can somebody Google what happens if you drink a liter of orange juice every day?
You will become an orange.
It's very acidic.
No, you become orange. Yeah, I mean the colors. Which chapter? I don't know.
It's a lot of sugar.
1.
It's kind of
I have it here. If you have too many vitamins in your body, you get like too much, and then it's I don't know how it's called. It's like when too many vitamins are in the body.
No, but vitamin
Also
C,
not good. Vitamin C is not a problem.
Too much sugar
Vitamin
is.
C, the body just passes out. Yeah.
you just we are going out.
which chapter? Can you repeat again? Because people are asking.
Antya-līlā, Chapter 1. Text number. So we had read that Rūpa Gosvāmī fell asleep in a place called Mayapur, and he had a dream. Satyabhama came and said, "Write 2 books, one about Vrindavan and one about Dwarka." He arrived in Puri. Mahaprabhu came and visited Haridāsa Ṭhākura and Rūpa Gosvāmī. And then, trying to find the verse around. I think the Gundicha.
Around 40.
Do not try to take Krishna out of Vrindavan. You read
Is
that?
that where we started? Let's start with text 63. So Antya 1, Antya-līlā, chapter 1, verse 63. So this is just summarizing that they cleaned the Gundicha temple, and after that they took prasādam. When Haridāsa Ṭhākura and Rūpa Gosvāmī saw all the devotees were accepting prasādam and chanting the holy name of Hari, they were greatly pleased. 64. When they received the remnants of Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu's prasādam through Govinda, they respected it, and then they both began to dance in ecstasy. On the next day, when Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, the omniscient Lord spoke as follows. So if there's a purport, it'll show up here, or I have to...
Yes, it will show up.
This is what Lord Chaitanya told Rūpa Gosvāmī. Do not try to take Krishna out of Vrindavan, for he does not go anywhere else at any time. The Krishna known as Yadu Kumar is Vasudeva Krishna. He is different from the Krishna who is the son of Nanda Maharaj. Yadu Kumar Krishna manifests his pastimes in the cities of Mathura and Dwarka, but Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, never at any time leaves Vrindavan. This verse is included in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita by Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī. So, Vrindavan is Krishna's home. And this is where you find Swayam Bhagavan, the original form of Krishna. Where there's Krishna and Radha, that's Krishna's original form. Sometimes we call it Shyamasundar. if there's Krishna, which is Narayan and Lakshmi, it's not his original form. The form of Krishna with Radha, that's the original form, with the gopis. And that's in Vrindavan. And that's only where Krishna exhibits that form. When he leaves Vrindavan, he exhibits a different form. When Krishna killed demons, even in Vrindavan, he was manifesting a different form to kill the demons. When Krishna leaves Vrindavan, the Vasudeva form. When Krishna's in Dwarka with the wives, it's not the same form. So that original form of Krishna stays in Vrindavan. It never leaves. But sometimes it appears to leave. But it doesn't go anywhere. It is only in Vrindavan.
Yes, chapter 1, 60.
Different Krishna. It appears that he left, but he didn't left. It appears that he left, but he didn't leave. It just seems like it. So everyone's feeling Krishna has left Vrindavan, but Shyama Sundar doesn't leave Vrindavan. That's his eternal home. So you may remember that Krishna, after he left Vrindavan, he came to Kurukshetra. And Kurukshetra is not that far from Vrindavan, so then the residents of Vrindavan thought we would go and meet Krishna. So they met Krishna in Kurukshetra, but he was dressed as a king and surrounded by bodyguards and other military. And that's not the Krishna. Like, imagine, like you see me here in Mayapur, right? But imagine in America, I'm dressed in a suit and I'm sitting in a big office. I've just been made the CEO of Google, and you come to see me, and it's different. It's like, when are you coming back to Mayapur? But, in America, you're wearing a suit, and you don't have time for us, and we don't work at Google. So the gopis, the residents of Vrindavan, were asking Krishna, when are you coming back? Because here, this is not the right mood. Sometimes I give the example, it's a strange example, but it conveys the point. Let's say a man wants to get married, or let's say a man wants to develop a relationship with a woman. Well, actually, getting married is better. So he wants to marry this woman, and tonight he's going to ask her. He's going to ask her out to dinner, and then in this beautiful restaurant with low candlelight and soft music, and each meal is $100. He's going to ask her. He's not going to take her to McDonald's, even if there is a vegetarian McDonald's. He's not going to take her to McDonald's and ask her at McDonald's to marry him. It's the wrong atmosphere. It's the wrong mood. Right? So Vrindavan is the mood where Krishna can manifest fully on the highest level of love and relationship. And he can't manifest it outside. But when the gopis and the residents of Braja saw Krishna in Kurukshetra, there was a problem. Because they were with Krishna, but they weren't with Krishna. Because it wasn't in the right atmosphere, so they couldn't exchange. It's like you see me in Google, and you go, don't bow down, they don't know who I am. You can't do that. Okay, don't call me anything, you have to call me Martin. Okay. You have to call me Mr. Hausman. So it's awkward. You feel awkward. And so you're starting to feel separation from Mahatma Prabhu, because now it's Mr. Hausner, and you want Mahatma Prabhu to come. So it was just like that in Kurukshetra. It wasn't Krishna's original form. It was an expansion, Vasudeva, a different form. It has different relationships. So now in this form, in my business suit, I have different relationships. So you say, when are you coming back to Mayapur, where we can sit and have class and watch you drink orange juice? Does that make sense? So there's this kind of separation that takes place where even though you're with the person, you're feeling absent from the person because you don't have the person. You know, it's like if you all come to my house, my wife feels separation because she doesn't have me. You have me, right? That's your thing. When is everybody leaving so I can have you? So even I'm there, she doesn't have me, right? So Krishna's there. He's surrounded by all the bodyguards and other royal insignias and horses and whatever, elephants. And say, we want our Vrindavan Krishna. Can you come back to Vrindavan? So the level of separation reached a very, very high level there because Krishna was there, but he wasn't there. It's like, you know, you can't touch him because, it's Krishna, but it's not Krishna. So it's a different form. He wants you to come back to Vrindavan in the Shyama Sundar form. In the Shyama Sundar form, then we can exchange love. So that's a brief explanation. You want more? So the goal of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas generally is to go to Vrindavan and become a gopi or a cowherd boy. That's a general aspiration. But of course, now, for many of us, many of you, you're beginning devotional service, so you don't think gopi, manjari, cowherd boy, which one do I like? It'll manifest. The tendency will manifest. Once my wife got really mad at me. Because we lived in Vrindavan, so she was very much in the Vrindavan mood, and one day I said, I think I'm a cowherd boy. She got mad at me. Cowherd boy! Only gopis. Only manjari. So there's a devotee artist here and he does paintings. And you'll see paintings in our house of Radha and Krishna. And I have this painting of the story last night of Gokumar embracing, right? So all her paintings are Antya-līlā, and all the paintings I order are Sakura. So I don't know if that's eternally true, but anyway, she made peace. She said, okay. Like years later, she said, okay, if you want to be a cowherd boy, it's okay.
But is it not a kind of contradiction? This is the thing that I was wondering a lot. Because if we really fell down from the spiritual world, and if we really have this Svarupa there, so, okay, how we all can be like gopis and cowherd boys, because in the spiritual world there is a lot of different positions. We can even be a grass there, yes, or an animal. So, yeah, I really sometimes have a difficulty to figure out, because we are all aspiring to these high positions, but maybe this is not our position.
Maybe it is. For a few devotees, it may not be. We have a godbrother, he spends half a year in Sri Rangam, which is the Śrī Sampradaya, and they worship Krishna in awe and reverence. And I've talked to my godbrothers about it, and they said probably he was a Sri Vaishnava in his last life, or probably that's his relationship with Krishna, so it manifests that way. But generally, we were being directed towards Vrindavan.
Krishna seems to be unfair that those people from Kali Yuga who are very fallen, the most fallen, are achieving the best, but those from previous ages, like achieving something that seems to be lower.
Totally unfair. But you're on the good side of the equation. So you get the, it's totally unfair. But you could say we already have that rasa. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, I know, but
What I think, what I like, the way I like to think is that, I mean, I've discussed this with very elevated devotees, and it's such an inconceivable topic that all the answers are like one answer was, I asked, it was so funny. In 1982, before I came to Mayapur, I had so many godbrothers that were listening to Prabhupada's godbrother Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta. So at that time in ISKCON, it was not considered so bad to associate a little bit here. Even the GBC at one point was asking questions of Prabhupada's godbrother, Bhakti Raksha Shaka Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta. So we went there, spent about a week there. And so someone had put these classes online, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm going, it says 1982, Navadweep, Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta, and I'm thinking, I think I was there. You know? So it's going in about like 52 minutes, there I am asking a question. And I'm like 32 years old and on fire. You know, it was funny to watch it because I was asking, so Lord Chaitanya came and give his mercy to the most fallen. It doesn't make sense. Why did he do that? And I'm like, I'm looking at myself going, wow, that's pretty bold. He wants to give, it's his. He can give it. And then he said, if you're rich, do you give people 10 rupees? Or do you give them 10,000 rupees? So Lord Chaitanya is the richest. He has love of God. What does he give? 10 rupees of love of God or 10 million rupees of love of God? So that was his answer. I asked Gaur Govinda Maharaj a similar question. The question I asked was hard to answer. Like I said, are we all gopis?
yeah.
Because we caught him off guard, actually. And then, so kind of yes and no, some maybe, maybe not. And then Prabhupada was asked, in the Shikshastika prayers, in the Guruvastika prayers, the 5th verse says, the spiritual master is assisting the gopis. Who knows who that song was written by? Vishwanath Chakravarti.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it said, Srila Prabhupada is every spiritual master assisting the gopis. And Prabhupada said Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's spiritual master was. And this song is about his spiritual master. So he said either they are or they're aspiring to be. So, but even if you're a cowherd boy, you can assist the gopis. At least some cowherd boys can assist. They bring messages. And Mother Yasoda assists because she, by Yogamaya's arrangement, invited Radharani to cook for Krishna. So indirectly, everybody's assisted somehow. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's the Gaudiya Vaishnava view. But there are devotees who may end up in Vaikuntha, and that's where they want to go. That's like Murari Gupta was Hanuman. But if you're in Lord Chaitanya's movement, then you can take birth in Lord Chaitanya's lila and get ecstatic love. We were saying the other day that if you're in Gauranga's lila, you could take birth in Navadweep in the spiritual world. And you could also take birth in Braj in the spiritual world. You can have 2 bodies. 2 is better than 1. You can have 2 forms, one in Gauranga lila and one in Krishna lila, if that's what you want. So that kind of, so even if you want to go to Vaikuntha, what if you want to come here and take part in Gauranga lila? we go on the walk and I say, well, here's Jagai Madai God. This is what Jagai Madai invited all the people. Here's where the Kazi broke the Mridanga. Here's where Parvati got the dust of Lord Chaitanya's feet. You know, you see all these places. So wouldn't it be nice to actually be there when it happened? Eternally? So you can do that. You can have that fun. If you want, then you're qualified. Even you want to go to Vaikuntha, you can still take part in Mahaprabhu's lila. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Gop Kumar, he was working his way up through the material world and the spiritual world, and he ended up in Vaikuntha, but he didn't fit in there because he had a friendly relationship with Krishna. And everything in Vaikuntha is awe and reverence. There's no friendship, maybe a slight drop. So he was dealing with Lord Narayan like a friend. Hey, you know, what's going on?
What's up?
And it's like, you know, Vaikuntha's like Britain going to see the Queen. You don't do that. Trump went to see the Queen and he walked right in front of her. You're not supposed to do that. Unless you're Donald Trump. But you're supposed to walk behind her. So Gop Kumar was kind of like Donald Trump in, you know, what's that, Buckingham Palace. Gop Kumar was like that in Vaikuntha, and he's a coward one. So everyone's saying, you can't do that here. You can't treat Narayan like that. He didn't belong there. So, why did I say that? What was my point? Anyone remember? What was the point? Yeah.
You're saying that we could be either in Chaitanya-līlā or Krishna, or even if we go to Vaikuntha, we can be in Gaura.
Yeah. And if somehow by accident you end up in Vaikuntha and you're meant to go to Braja, you just missed it, you got out, took a wrong turn, you won't fit in there. You know, sometimes questions are asked, can you go from Vaikuntha to Goloka, vice versa? Prabhupada's answer is, yeah, anything can happen, but it's dynamic, but generally it's not going to happen like that. But you really don't have to worry about it yet. And when it's time to worry about it, you're qualified to worry about it. But then you don't worry about it, it's just revealed. So there's nothing to worry about.
I don't worry, I'm just curious.
Some things you can't know, they have to be revealed. Yeah. How does that work? It said sometimes the Shastra describes the identity of devotees, that they're a combination of Vishaka and Arjuna, and some people say it's the Arjuna who's a friend of Krishna, some people say it's the Arjuna who was on the chariot with Krishna. How does that work? The spiritual has no limitation, so that's how it works. You have to think it's a different dimension. So sometimes it's just the Shakti of that person. It's like the Shakti of that person. But Prabhupada explained, or I was reading this very question a few weeks ago, that the spiritual doesn't have limitations, so it can expand like that. So both answers are there. That the spiritual, you can have a spiritual form that can expand in other forms, or it could be a Shakti that expands. Like Vishwarup, when he died, then he entered Nityananda Prabhu. So, it's an expansion in Nityananda. The conclusion is, if you don't understand it completely, the conclusion is that the spiritual dimension is not like the material dimension. So, sometimes you read something in Bhagavatam and you can't understand it. and that's also good, because it makes you realize that the spiritual dimension is so vast and so different that we can't understand it. So that's also an understanding. So what was your understanding of this verse? My understanding was, I can't understand. That's also an understanding. And one devotee in the early days was saying, but the fact that we can't understand, at least we understand that everything is there in the Bhagavatam. You know, it's describing the universe. I don't understand it, but at least you understand that it knows what the universe is like. So it builds faith. There's nothing that is not described there. So that's an understanding. And then, if there's two different answers we can give. One time, a devotee asked a question which Prabhupada felt he couldn't understand. It was about the spiritual world, and Prabhupada just said, you'll have to go there and find out. You know, it was a kind of like not such an important question. Srila Prabhupada, I'm just trying to understand how, if there are vegetables in the spiritual world, and people eat vegetables and nothing dies, what happens to the vegetable after you eat it? That kind of question, like really important question. And so Prabhupada said, well, you'll have to go there and find out. Like, what else is he going to say? Yeah. Well, sometimes if you don't know an answer, there are two answers you can give that get you off the hook. You have to go there and find out, or ask your spiritual master. Controversial question, better ask your spiritual master. So, but, I mean, sometimes there are questions where you don't want to answer because it's a sensitive issue, and he would say that. But if you don't know the answer, you can also use that, and you don't look so stupid. So, and then there are times when someone would ask a question that Prabhupada didn't think was relevant. And he would just look back at the devotee and say, why are you asking this question? Like, why do you need to know this? And then the devotee realizes, I don't need to know it. It wasn't a question that was necessary to ask. Then, there's another time, a girl asked a question, and Prabhupada could understand she was asking the question because it was a faith issue. You wouldn't ask that question if you had faith. And Prabhupada said, why are you asking that question? It was a question about the sun god and the chariot circumambulating the earth, and something in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam about how the orbits of the earth, and there's a sun god and a chariot, and so many horses. You see the horses? No. Building's blocking, otherwise nobody's seen the horses. So Prabhupada said, why are you asking the question? And she said, well, I'm asking it because it sounds unbelievable. And Prabhupada said, you're just a little living entity in one planet, in one universe. What do you know? So it's just, kind of putting things in perspective, faith-wise. Well, how? So you've never seen the sun god. So what? Who are you? So many things you haven't seen. This is one planet in the universe with unlimited planets, in a galaxy with unlimited universes, and you haven't seen one thing in it, and you doubt that it exists. So sometimes he would just put it in place. Like lack of faith. Yeah, well, don't think you'll understand everything. You've got a small perspective. And then Prabhupada gives the example, if it's nighttime, you can't make the sun rise, and you can't make it light, and if you have a flashlight and so many lights, still you can't make it as light as it is now. And he said, but when the sun comes, you don't have to do anything. It lights everything up. So he said, sometimes you cannot understand something. You just can't until it's revealed. It won't make sense to the head. It will crash your head. There's actually a story once sage was asking a question, some difficult thing, and the other sage said, if I answer it, it'll crack your head. It's like so esoteric and so deep, you'll try to understand it and your head will crack. So some things you can't understand, they'll be revealed. It's not that we don't try to understand. It's not that we want you all to, we want to create a cult. You can't understand anything, cult. But there are some things that are very elevated that you'll understand when you understand. So in 1970, I think around the summer of 1970, when there were, 500 devotees in ISKCON, and maybe 20 temples or 25. Very young movement, average age, 22 maybe. I was only 20. So 22 is a generous estimate of the average age. And then the average age of a devotee, 1 or 2 years. Nectar Devotion came out. So as you go more deeply into Nectar Devotion, we're starting to hear things we've never heard before. It's analyzing rasa, talking about Raganuga Bhakti, what's that? Then describing so many things, different kinds of ecstasies and how they're stimulated in different levels. Whoa. We had a class a couple years ago with a lot of elevated devotees, and we were discussing Baba and all the kinds of ecstasies, and it was like nobody got it. Even we thought we got it after we left. We go, so what did we learn? Something about stimulus, and something about Udipan and Anubhav and the Bhav, and it follows the Bhav. And I'm not sure. Like, nobody got it. It's just like, we didn't even get it, and that was 3 years ago. What to speak of 1970? So we're reading all this, different kinds of ecstasy, and this stimulates that and that. When you see Krishna's food, it stimulates this ecstasy, that's called this, and there's 3 subdivisions of that, and 2 subdivisions of that, and if it happens on this day, it's like that, and if the tears are hot, it's this, if they're cold, it's that, and you're like... So one devotee wrote Prabhupada and said, you don't understand this, what should we do? And said, keep reading it. Because it's not intellectual. You understand it according to your purity and advancement. And when you're advancing, getting closer to Baba, that stuff becomes really relevant and interesting because you're almost there. And you're like seedling experiencing these things. So now it starts to make sense. Oh yeah, I saw this yesterday. It was like monsoon clouds, and like, I was in Moscow and I was thinking of Vrindavan, Shama Sundar. I'm like, whoa, that's Udipan, stimulus by seeing a rain cloud. So now it's actually happening, and you go back, oh yeah, I read that in 1970. Had no idea what that meant. Now something's happening, shaking me up. But you won't many of these things you won't understand until you understand. Something like that. You won't understand until you have that experience. But for many of us, we're just trying not to overeat. Basically. It's like, Prabhu, Rasa Lila, Krishna's this. I don't know, Prabhu. I had 12 pakoras today. I'm trying to reduce it to 11. That's what I'm dealing with right now. Okay, so that's what you're dealing with right now, so maybe you shouldn't hear all these elevated topics, because that's not what you need. But at some point, you won't be eating any pakoras, and you'll be ready to hear, and it'll all make sense, naturally. So you can't force it. You just do what you're doing, and something's going to happen. Maybe tomorrow it'll happen. Who knows?
So what Prabhupada meant by saying, keep reading. If we are not ready and we are reading...
Because by reading, something goes in there. At least you know it exists.
But if we are on this lower stages, maybe better just read or focus on this, like, basic topics.
That's there also. Keep reading, but don't discuss it. We heard in Gaudiya Math, when they were reading through Bhagavatam or any book, where it came to something, like with the gopis and esoteric, they wouldn't discuss it. They would just read it, and they'd read through it. That was told to me, or I read it. During anything that was very, very elevated, I would just read it, they'd hear it, it exists, you know. And Krishna did this and that in Rasa Lila, and these rasas are there, and this ecstasy, and all these things. And you know it exists, and it's there. It's information, and at some point it'll be useful. You'll be ready for it. And you have it now. Something. So, oh yeah, I remember 1970 I read in Nectar Devotion this. Now it's 2019, I think. And I go back to it, and I go, oh my God, when I read this, I didn't understand anything. Now this is relevant. I just bought a book on Raganuga Bhakti. I don't think in 1970 I would have known what Raganuga Bhakti is, or would have been interested in it. Actually, I have 2 books on Raganuga Bhakti now. But now it's more interesting to me, because it's more relevant. It may not be relevant to all of you yet, so why read it? You read the book, How Not to Eat 13 Pakoras a Day. Right? That may be the book you need right now. And when you conquer that problem and a few other problems, then you can read about Raganuga Bhakti. Then it'll make sense. Otherwise, you read it now, you might think, this doesn't relate to me.
Is this the reason why we don't learn during Bhakti Shastras nectar of devotion till the end? We read only first.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beginning, yeah. How about you can read the whole nectar of devotion? You may not understand everything. I mean, we're brahmacharis. When Nectar Devotion came out, I've been a devotee 8 months. So I open the page and it describes Krishna's painting, doing drawings on Radharani's breast. So like, okay. What does that mean? I don't know. Don't think about it. Just keep reading. We knew it was transcendental, but still we didn't understand exactly. I mean, maybe we'll never understand. As you advance, you become free from sex desire, then you can understand these things. Because you're not free from sex desire, it's really difficult to understand, because you'll take it to be mundane. So as you advance, you become a little free from lust, then you understand that Radharani is a manifestation of Krishna's own pleasure potency. Radharani is Krishna in a female form. And so Krishna is just painting himself, basically. You know, someone said, why is Krishna dancing with other men's wives? He's actually dancing with himself, because they're all manifestations of his own potency. Say Krishna's Atma Rama, why does he need anyone to dance with? Because he's dancing with himself. That's Atma Rama.
That's why this is the thing that I always have a problem, because for me it seems that Krishna doesn't need us, in the sense that he's Atma Rama. He can just fulfill himself.
We are expansions of his potency, so he's dancing with himself.
Yeah. Because, you know, like, let's say that we've been in the spiritual world, because you know that I have doubts. So there was a place, there was a relationship, and now we are like disappearing from this place, and there's an empty place. So someone is like...
what happened to Krishna consciousness? We were just dancing. She left. That's another point. But what was the point I made before that?
That we should read...
Oh yeah, Krishna's dancing with himself. The gopis are expansions of his own internal potency. So he's Atma Rama. If you can dance with yourself, you're still self-satisfied. If you can expand yourself into thousands of forms, and it's still yourself, and dance with yourself, you're self-satisfied. She was always asking this question: how can Krishna want or hanker after a relationship with his devotees if he's self-satisfied? Because one answer is they want the relationship. Right? but there's two things you're looking at. You're looking at philosophy and you're looking at relationships. So philosophically, Krishna's Atma-Rama, he's self-satisfied. He doesn't need anything. Definitely a fact. So why does he need Radharani? Because that's rasa, that's different. Because that's the complete absolute truth, Radha Krishna. And he completes him. And then she expands. It's more complete Krishna. Krishna's God is female and masculine. Yeah, and also he can be self-satisfied and hanker because the spiritual world can accommodate.
It's difficult to understand this achintya, that someone is at the one side fulfilled and unfulfilled, because...
Yeah, so then we'll make it simple. His devotees want a relationship and he's fulfilling it. But one way Prabhupada would answer this is say, you want love, yes, well where did that desire for love come from? It came from Krishna. It's inherent within even Krishna, his eternal associates, and jivas, because love is inherent. So we hanker after love, and Krishna hankers after love. He's self-satisfied. It's like Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm happy, but I'm not happy. I'm happy because I have Krishna. I'm not happy because all these other people don't have Krishna. I am Avarama, I'm self-satisfied, I don't need anything. But I am the king of rasa. And so, I'm happy staying home tonight, but, my friends are at the party, So, ultimately, you could look at it like Krishna's hankering to give love to his devotees. That's Krishna. And he wants you to participate in the program. So get with the program. Krishna wants your love and he'll reciprocate. So get with the program. What are you waiting for? I have a doubt. No. Krishna just wants love. It's simple. You don't complicate it.
But I believe that I should not have read such pastimes like when Krishna left gopis, because it seems to have a bad influence on me, as I told you today, because I was not ready, and right now sometimes I think that I don't want to love Krishna. I don't want to be crazy in love, because he will lead me and he will break my heart.
You need to read the philosophy around the pastime. That's what's missing. To study the philosophies about separation.
Yeah, from once, intellectually, I know that it's...
Because if you look at it materially, then you'll feel
but-
this way. If you look at it materially, you'll feel this way.
That's
Krishna
why
left
this is-
Vrindavan to expand the love of the residents of Vrindavan. Also to protect them, so all the demons were coming to Vrindavan. So if I move, the demons will come to Mathura. We'll take care of them in Mathura. Now that's the way I protect the Rajvasis. But also to increase their love. And they said, but why didn't he go back? Well, if he went back and he left again, they'd all die. He said, if I go back, then they're going to be happy. And what if I leave again? It'll be too much.
But my point was just that if we are not ready like me and seeing something with the material mind, then it can have a bad influence.
Yeah, that's why you can't read the pastimes without discussing the philosophy. Because then when you discuss the philosophy, you realize that the residents of Vrindavan were in a higher ecstasy after Krishna left. They were more absorbed.
But we are all experiencing that this separation is a kind of suffering in this world. That's why...
But you learn, but you'll also learn. Yeah, but that's material. That's not Krishna. Separation is suffering. Sometimes being together is suffering also. That's material. So, should we read a little more? Well, it's 9 o'clock. Any questions? Yes.
The point you explained about being Atma Ram and Krishna still hankering for the relationship, Is it something like a rich man who is earning $1,000,000? He is satisfied that he's earning, but he's not stopping it there. He's trying to increase it more and more. Is it something like that?
Lila Shakti will answer. What's your answer?
He is hungry for love.
Hungry for love. Yeah, you can't stop his appetite. That's his nature.
Also, Prabhuji,
Because in the spiritual dimension, you can be satisfied and hungry at the same time. But that's hard for us to. If we're satisfied, we're not hungry. If we're hungry, we're not satisfied. And Krishna is eternally hungry for love, and he'll never be fully fulfilled. So he'll always want more love. And he wants all you to love him, and you're all like, oh, I don't know, maybe, think about it. And Krishna's, what's wrong with you? Let's dance. I don't know, I'm tired. I'll think about it, maybe tomorrow. Kind of hard to finish my rounds today. And Krishna's like, let's dance, come on, I'm hungry for your love. Oh, this is too hard. We have to think like that. Krishna's ready to play, so let's play with him. And we're like, Maya, can I play with you for a while? You're more fun.
And what happens when
That's
we
our
start
problem.
playing with Krishna?
What?
What happens when we start playing with Krishna?
Oh, everything happens. Everything good happens. If you become happy, really happy, ecstatically happy. You might be happy, but that's not ecstasy. Everything good happens. And you feel Krishna's love, protection, guidance. Everything your heart wants happens when you love Krishna. You get it all. So let's just think of the Krishna's hankering for love, for your love, for my love. Let's meditate on that part. And maybe not meditate so much on the self-satisfied part. That's more philosophy. God, what is God? What is self-satisfied? He's the creator, the owner of everything. That's like we call Ṭhākura. That's God. But when it comes to relationship, which is called rasa, then we can think, in relationship, Krishna's waiting for my love. He's hankering for it, he wants it, and let's give it. Let's start dancing. Let's join the party. The party's going, let's join it. Krishna's inviting us. Yes.
Sometimes, in some seasons of my life, I have so many philosophic questions, so especially how this working, some things in the universe or the karma law. So, in some way, I think some material is coming, or some seminar is coming, or some book is coming, then I can fulfill some level of my questions. But then I want to go more deep, and because I have this natural, sometimes I want to really understand
everything.
Yeah. So I thinking if I continue having this mentality, maybe I will not return to how to local with Krishna, because I'm not satisfied there. So, like for example, last month I put my questions to one side, and because I thinking maybe I will become some place and I need to explain me because it's going so deep sometimes. Sometimes going so deep. So
is that good or bad? You're asking what to do, or is that good or bad?
I'm thinking that it's good, it's bad, or whether I should leave these ideas.
It could be good and it could be bad. It depends how you process it. She's asking that. I have so many questions. Is it good to contemplate? If that's your nature, and you have the capacity to understand, and you have the guidance of people who understand, it can be very good. Because then you have deep discussions, you understand things more deeply, you can explain to others, so that's good. If you get the answers and it just becomes a game of just like knowing for the sake of knowing, not for advancing, then it's like endless. Then it might be that your bhakti is getting mixed with a little too much gyan. Because for us, we want to know so we can be better devotees, so we can represent Prabhupada better, we can explain the philosophy better. So if that's the case, that by knowing I can be a better devotee, I can help others, yeah, that's great. And you have the capacity, then use it. But if it's just like an endless knowing for the sake of knowing, I think that's why when someone would ask a question, Prabhupada would say, why are you asking? Like, what's the importance of this question? Does it have any... So if your questions have value for more deeply understanding of philosophy, then it's good. That's what Prabhupada wanted.
Like, for example, I'm very emotional and sentimental person. So for me, see people in the street and the people is suffering, this is very hard.
Yes.
Because I can know this is a karma, I'm still in them. My heart is like a pain. So I'm trying to go in books, try to understand, and they are explained like you eat a cake, then you become an ant, you do this, you get like this, and then still I go and I cannot understand your law of karma, what is so deep, why is so painful for some people, why the hell is so badly. I know that the body is not real, but still is so badly mentally for the person. So, for example, I'm going this for last years. I think all my Krishna life, because I'm trying to understand and work in my sentimental mood in some way. So, so I satisfy some part, but it's still.
Well, it's like Krishna Karshani's question. You understand it on one level. Then you go deeper, and it can resolve some of the maybe doubts or emotional dissatisfaction by understanding the philosophy behind it. I think that's very helpful. We all feel pain when we see people suffering, and we have to make sense of it and how we personally are going to deal with it. So understanding it is important. It's like there are butcher shops, and there are also cows going to slaughter, and there's a connection there. But we still don't want to see those cows slaughtered, even though we know those were all butchers in their last life. So how do I make sense of that, philosophically and emotionally? We need to discuss it. We need to understand it. Is it right to have compassion for those cows, or I can't do anything? Should I just say, wow, they're all butchers in their last life, they deserve to be slaughtered? Or how do I deal with it? That will require some discussion and some introspection. So I think it's good, because there's so many things in our philosophy we have to figure out. Otherwise, we won't know how to deal with it. There's a poor person, and it's a cold day, and you have a nice warm jacket, and you've got like 5 more jackets at home. Should I give him? But what if I give him my jacket and then he goes buys a bottle of wine? Do I get karma? All these. You have to figure all these things out. How do you want to deal with it? Is it okay? This one guy came to me in New York. He's like, we made friends, and can you give me $5? I have $5, no problem. I made him vow. I told him I was a devotee. He said, oh, Haridāsa, you have to vow to me, you don't buy meat, alcohol, or drugs with this $5. Make that vow. So that was me personally. Maybe another devotee would have given him and not said anything. Maybe another devotee wouldn't have given him. But you have to figure it out, why you're doing it, why you wouldn't do it, and be peaceful with it. Yes.
So I should invest time with seniors for.
Yeah, it's good. Otherwise, you'll have doubts.
Yes.
So Prabhupada didn't want us to have doubts, and naturally there'll be doubts, but the doubts are removed by discussing philosophy, looking at it, discussing with several senior devotees. We had a discussion like this. You're walking by a river and somebody's drowned in. So what do you do?
The other situation is sometimes devotees don't want to discuss this. I think they feel there is a waste, not that they say, you chant Hare Krishna.
That's true for some devotees, yeah. It will, It will be a waste for some devotees because it doesn't matter to them. For others, it won't be a waste. So it's an individual thing. I don't think there's one size doesn't fit all. But for some devotees, they need it. Because if you have a doubt, you're not clear because your mind thinks that way. Like, I have so many doubts. My mind's worse, goes much worse than yours. I can bring up all kinds of, like, Prabhupada said, but you see this, Gaudiya Mata did that, Ṭhākura said this, so-and-so Maharaj says this, but so-and-so Maharaj says that. Makes very interesting discussions. But, at some point, as an individual, I have to come to a conclusion, not just to teach it, but for my own self. Like how am I going to deal with this, whatever this is? How do I deal with it? Whether it's a philosophical question or a question of philosophy that relates to something practical, how do we deal with it? And sometimes it actually takes years before you can understand the answer. It's like that. You think you have the answer, but then you discuss with another devotee, and he says, no, I read Sanatana Gosvāmī, his commentary on the Bhagavatam, and he addresses this point, and he said something I never thought of, that, completely opened my mind to another perspective. Oh, really? What did he say? He said this. Oh, wow, I never heard this. We read in the retreat that if you preach, but you don't follow what you preach, that's karma. You create karma. Wow, I never heard that. So you're adding, as you grow in Krishna consciousness, sometimes you think you understand something, and then you realize later on new questions come up. So Prabhupada like that. Let's discuss it. I have this question. What do you think? So-and-so says this, but I see this. It doesn't seem to make sense. What do you think? Well, it's called Yuga. We have to adjust, but I also, Bhakti Siddhanta said this. And I just read yesterday this. Oh, now it's getting interesting. So that's healthy. We're always discussing. That's good. We should always be discussing. Even if we don't come to a conclusion, keep discussing, keep asking. That's part of Krishna consciousness. Is that okay? So keep speculating. Then she really wants to ask.
It's a very short question. Because you said it's like Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So I was
what does he do when he disappears?
No, I'm wondering, is it the same with Radhisha? Like deities, is he more potent there than other deities? Because if he never leaves,
only Lila Shakti can answer that question.
I couldn't hear.
Said, is Radhe Sham, are those deities more potent because they're in Vrindavan?
More potent than whom?
Than the other deities around the world, because you say Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan, right? So I'm wondering, does he also not leave Radhisha?
No, where is Krishna? There is Vrindavan. He's everywhere.
But for me, they're more potent. What she said is true. But for me, I feel, when I see Radhe Sham in Vrindavan, one day, this is really funny, my godbrother, who I hadn't seen in a few years, Keshav Bharti Maharaj, had just walked into the temple in Vrindavan, and I think he had just arrived, and I had just arrived like that day or the day before, and I hadn't seen the deities yet. And I was standing in front of Radhe Sham, and by some blessing of mercy, I was just like, it's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. I never seen Radharani so beautiful, and I was just thinking how beautiful she was. And then I saw him, and I said, isn't Radharani beautiful? He goes, exactly what I was thinking. So she's special. I think, I don't know. But anyway, what she said is true, what I said is true. So Krishna consciousness is, you can have different answers and they're both true.
But then he's also in Dwaraka, or he's like, then it's the same with the person.
And you will have your favorite deity. Okay. You still have a question?
I can ask you later.
Okay. Prabhupada, please.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on the discussion you're having about separation, and I was thinking that, of asking whether it's kind of similar the way that Krishna handles us even here and now, and that sometimes we're in situations that are very, seem wonderful, seem perfect, seem idyllic, and then it all just kind of falls apart. It's almost like Krishna leaves Vrindavan. but then it makes you take shelter of Krishna more and hanker for Krishna more, the mercy, the association of devotees, and then it's like Krishna comes back, you know. And he recreates the situation, and better than it was before, such that if that whatever apparent tragedy didn't happen, it could have never gotten better.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to be Krishna conscious and you're willing to allow Krishna to take over your life, he'll do all kinds of things, but the result will always be better. Just you may not like the process that he uses, but it'll always be better. At the same time, we should always take guidance from senior devotees so we don't misunderstand what's going on and maybe make wrong decisions within the process. So, you know, it's to put your life in Krishna's hands, it requires guidance of senior devotees. So, you know, if Krishna's putting you through a situation to help you, but if there's difficult, you'll want guidance to know how to, what is the message. But he'll also do amazing things as well, like you said, in the end. But maybe for you that'll never happen again because you don't need it. Maybe it's over. That's also possible. And maybe from now it's just positive, not negative. So that's there also. But you know, faith is very important. You have to put your faith in Krishna. If you put your faith in Krishna, then you're willing to let him do what he has to do to help you. You know, like in my own case, I was doing a business, I didn't want to do it, and I was trying to get out of it and just teach, but I didn't know how to do it. And then Krishna, I think, at least for me, this helped me. The economy crashed, and my business was useless. I couldn't make any money with it anyway. So I was already teaching, so Krishna was saying, oh, we'll just keep doing it. Now you're full-time teaching because your business doesn't work. So it was a little hard, but everything worked out. So, you know, it might not always be easy, but if we have faith that, okay, rather than, oh, why did Krishna take this business away, think, oh, Krishna, Krishna took this business away because I wanted him to. I always wanted to get out of the business. And Krishna said, you're never going to get out of the business. I'll just ruin it. And you'll have no business to get out of. So that's the way I saw it. You know, like,
I remember that you said once that if Krishna is giving something away from us, it means that he's going to give us something better.
Yeah, exactly. He takes it away, he'll give something better. Yeah, and Prabhupada said the same thing for him. Krishna destroyed his business because he had bigger plans. Here we are in Vrindavan, living in Mayapur. And maybe next fall in Vrindavan. Okay, anything else? Yes?
Could you just explain that if you are preaching and you're not following that, that becomes a part of karma? Can you please explain that?
I can. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'll explain what I think I can understand.
What was his question?
If you're preaching, but you don't follow what you preach, it sounds like what he's saying. If you tell somebody to do something you don't do, it's like you'll get the karma for not doing it.
Is it Prabhupada's
I just
quote?
read one sentence. I didn't read it in context.
Is it Prabhupada's?
It's Bhakti Srila Bhakti Siddhanta.
Okay.
Karma means there's a reaction.
Yes.
So there's some reaction for teaching something that you don't follow. You're a charlatan, you're a fake, you're not the real thing. So, you know, like I told this funny story, maybe some of you heard it, but there was a sannyasi who, when he took sannyas, was about his size. And where's fun? And who's the biggest person we have here? No. But when he gave the class, he was bigger than anybody here. He was, you know, maybe as big as you, but like smaller. So he was really big. Maybe 2/3 bigger than he was when he took sannyas. And so the purport, the verse, or at least the purport said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did not like to see his disciples getting fat, because it meant they were overeating, and it meant they were becoming sense enjoyers because they were just overeating and sleeping a lot. That's the purport you have to preach on, and you're like 3 times bigger than you were when you took sannyas. What do you say?
But some people have healthy problems, and that's why becoming fat, not eating much.
No, but he was never at Mangalarti. He was there for prasadam, but he'd get up 5 minutes before class, give the class, and then go to sleep again. He was an unusual sannyasi. When he'd give the best class, nobody could give a class like it, and then he'd go to sleep.
He needed to recuperate.
So how do you speak on that verse? Would you like to be in that situation, that the verse is talking about your mistakes and you have to preach about it? So all I can understand is that there must be some kind of sin in teaching what you don't follow, and therefore you get some karma.
But sometimes you have to preach because
it's in the verse.
Yes, you don't want to do it, but then people want to,
Prabhu, tell me how to become humble. Oh my God. Can you ask another question?
What about what you preach and don't fully understand? So.
Yeah. I would say, as long as we're trying to follow, even if you're not following, you're trying. You're setting an example. Like a lot of people think, well, my guru should be perfect. But one example your guru is setting is that he was like you 40 years ago. And so he had to struggle and maintain determination. And he's still trying. He's not at prema yet, so he's still trying. So that example is there. As long as you're trying and you're sincere, then you can preach that. This is what we should do. This is what I'm trying. I'm trying to be humble so I can teach something about humility. I'm trying to chant good japa so I can teach something about it. But if I'm not trying, and then I teach it, it's cheating. And so there's some karma for cheating. So as long as you're trying, you're okay. You're willing to try. He'll think about it.
There's a story about one mother that she had a son who was eating too many
Oh
sweets.
yeah. That was Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh yeah?
It was Mahatma Gandhi.
The boy was Mahatma Gandhi?
No, the teacher was Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay, so the mother took and said, please, instruct him to stop eating sweets. And then he said, okay, bring him back in a month. So then she brings him back in a month, and he says, don't eat sweets. The boy stopped eating sweets. And then she said, why couldn't you say that a month ago? He said, because I was eating sweets. My instruction would not have potency.
There you go. And maybe also I would get karma. Okay, thank you for coming. There's no breakfast today?
For you.
Only for me, all right.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll meet at Vaishnava Seva's house.
My jacket is there.
And you can come get tomorrow at Vaishnava Seva's house, and then tomorrow night at 5:30 we'll have class. Can you find out about where we have class?
We can do it in our place. We can do it in our place.
Well, they want to do it in their place, but then everyone has to find their place.
We had an Amahata there, so many people know already.
Okay, so Sunday night in their place, and their place is that way. And how's everyone going to find their
Next to
place?
Gupta Brindavan.
It's the next building to Gupta Vrindavan. It's very easy. All people know Gupta Vrindavan.
Today is
And today is where? Where is today?
So, if anyone wants to know where their place is, meet me at my house at 5 o'clock, and I'll take you there. Through the back fields. And their place is where I used to live.
Yeah.
She's sleeping in the room I used to sleep in. In the exact spot I used to sleep. Are you dreaming about me? She's not dreaming. Not a real disciple. Okay. Come get it.
You know what time is
First,
with the elephants?
The first time I went to have a meeting with Prabhu,
With the elephants?
he gave us,
Yes.
as we walked in, he gave us prasādam.
Every Saturday.
And it was dried fruit. I like dates. Who likes dates?
Keep the days for yourself.
I'm not going to eat them all. These are the local dates, right?
No, someone told me that India doesn't have dates. They are importing dates. They're making sugar of dates. This is
All right.
natural.
Say hello to all my friends in Mar del Plata.
Okay, I hope we can meet you there.
Tell Arjun Saka.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of him. And
Always.
we'll come there probably in September or October.
Yeah, we're to get to Kamala. I hope so.
You'll be there?
Yes. Thank you very much.